We rocking and rolling.
Hello.
I love how you say hello as if we haven't been talking for the last.
I know, right? Like we've literally just been chatting.
Hello and welcome to the compliance spill.
Welcome to the compliance spill, where we spill all about compliance.
What is this thing?
I don't know. It just feels right, you know. Wait, should it be like this? You know that thing that was.
Oh God, that's so Gen Z of you.
I know. I can't help it. Are we ready? Let's just dig in like we usually do.
Let's do it. What do you got?
Topic 1. This one's interesting. This one's New York specific. I was able to pull New York stuff again this time.
More. Good.
Yeah. So this was a potential thing. It's liberal interpretation of labor law. So the New York courts would have to read the state's labor laws, including wage and hour protections, in the way that most benefits workers. This applies even if federal courts take a stricter view on similar laws under the FLSA. Lawmakers passed this as a pushback against the federal trend of narrowing worker protections.
This feels like the same thing we talked about. This feels similar to, I can't remember what it was specifically, but on another episode.
Oh, yeah, where we were talking about the state labor board can step in.
Right. It's the same, like, this feels like needless legislation. Because if you're in New York, generally speaking in New York, you're going to have more employee supportive laws anyway. And this is not the case in every other state. Like, you're in Tennessee. Like, it's there's very little to worry about in Tennessee. But in New York, like, most of the laws are going to be more employee friendly, and they're going to be a lot more specific and a lot harder to manage and administer than the federal laws are. So it's like, if you're practicing compliance in New York State, you're going to look for the state specific law first, because that's the one that you're, it's like the hierarchy, you know? Yeah. So I don't get it.
The interesting thing about it to me is they're asking the courts to always like broadly favor workers when ruling. So basically the worker, and when they're suing the employer, is going to have more pull.
Regardless. Do they think that they have shitty attorneys? Is that listen, we're going to need you to do a better job, because these not the defense attorneys, the prosecutors are not doing their jobs, and they're not coming up with all the things that are being violated.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I've never seen a law like this. I just think it's wild to say, and it's in response to the federal courts. That, like, New York keeps responding to the federal courts by producing these very interesting interpretations of law. And this one's really, really interesting to me, because it's just like, okay, so you're going to make it so that the courts broadly favor workers, but your laws already broadly favor workers. So how does that shake out?
I don't know. That's weird. That's what I'm saying. I don't get it.
It's currently waiting to be delivered to the governor. So she might sign it. She might not. But it has passed the legislature.
Is that even I guess I don't even know how that works. Is that even like a regulation, or is it just like a assumption, or is it, like you said, it's an ask? Like what?
It's an ask. They're asking that the courts liberally interpret the labor law.
I don't know enough about how like the judicial system works, I guess, to understand the impact of that beyond just like looking at it from a business perspective of knowing what your potential risk is. Yeah. But it seems needless, because you're already doing that. If you're already considering like trying to be within compliant regulations, then like you should just be doing that anyway, in New York at least. So
yeah,
weird.
I just thought it was a weird one that I'd never ever heard of anything like that. So I wanted to bring it up, because
there's probably something I don't know about, like how that impacts the actual like rulings of cases and stuff.
I didn't see a whole lot of news articles about it. I tried to see what people were saying, and there wasn't a whole lot about it.
It's called liberal. What was it called?
It is, well, I can tell you the big long bill number, but it's the liberal interpretation of labor law is the name that I've seen it used
Well,
as.
there you go. Heard it here first, folks.
It's Senate Bill S7388 if you want to look it up on the New York State Senate website.
Okay. You're welcome. You bring it up and I'm like, I don't know, sounds weird.
What a weird thing.
Let's go listen to the experts talk about compliance. I'm like, strange.
Well, no, because I think that's how most people feel when they read, like even the experts. Like, it's
well, and again, I'm not an attorney, right? So like I my perspective for everything is always, how is this impacting the workplace? How is it impacting employees and business leaders, owners, whatever? So my opinion is always like, I don't know what's necessarily panning out here, but I can see how the eventual impact would come back to either employees or employers. Yeah. And something like that, it seems very specific to like the legislative process and based on just what I know, which is enough to be dangerous. But again, I don't know the inner workings. Like I guess I don't know enough to know like what I'm missing of how else that would make a difference. But so I guess like to sum up, as a business owner, like keep doing what you're doing. Probably not keep doing what you're doing. Keep listening to us tell you what you should be doing.
Yeah, the biggest thing is if you're in New York, keep your compliance in check.
Yeah, well, and then, you know, we live in a state where it's not just the state regulations, there's local legislations to take into consideration is the word I was looking for. You know, down in New York City, there's entirely different rules. Depending on the borough you're in, there's different rules. And then there's like, I love literally the verbiage that's used on actual legislation is always like the rest of New York. Like they're like, we're going to talk about all the stuff that goes on in New York City, and we're actually just going to call it New York because everybody thinks this is New York. Oh, and then here's the rest of New York State.
Literally. I've also seen that a lot of the New York City specific things will eventually pass through the state court too, and they'll just make it a statewide thing.
Well, a lot of times too, like with minimum wage, for example, and with paid family leave, if there's a new regulation that comes into play, there's usually like some type of ramp up period. And that ramp up period will start, like for minimum wage, it's still higher, but it will start at a certain amount and they will always increase. And then eventually the remainder of New York State will like catch up, but it's probably going to be more and more years behind. And obviously that's, you know, economic reasons. The money and the funding and the economy in New York City is a hell of a lot different than it is in, you know, Watertown, New York, for example. So, and then it's different in Rochester, it's different in Syracuse, it's different in Albany, it's different in Binghamton. Like the differentiation in demographics and economy throughout New York State is wild. It's so different. And it's difficult. I mean, even obviously from a working standpoint, but even just as a human, how you're impacted as like a homeowner is wild when these new things come through, because a lot of these things are based on ideas of politicians in Albany and New York City. And it's like not the same when you live in Wayne County or Jefferson County or Onondaga County for that matter.
Before we move on, I wanted to say, just like as an opinion question, do you think that with New York attempting to institute a more liberal interpretation of labor law, that could lead to more lawsuits? Do you think it might empower or embolden people to sue more often?
I don't think so. Because your ability to file a claim is always there. The question is, will attorneys choose to support that claim and fight it? And then the next step would be, would a court agree with that? So I think the real difference might lie in, will an attorney support that claim? But like the ability to or the want to sue, I don't think necessarily changes. Because again, the actions being taken that lead to somebody calling an attorney to be like, I have this claim, I don't think that changes, but the next step would.
Okay.
So
I agree with you. I think most employees wouldn't even know that this exists. So most people won't know that this exists.
Attorneys might, if they're smart,
yes.
Might use that as a marketing tool or promotional tool to say, hey, like these are problems and this is how we can help you. And if you're experiencing this and this and this, if you've, contracted mesothelioma, whatever it is.
That is always what I think of when I think of lawyers.
Huh?
That's always what I think of when I think of lawyers. I'm sorry. I think of those commercials.
Employment attorneys don't have to market or advertise, especially in New York State. There's always something, and they'll collaborate specifically with the state and to put together more like mass programs where people can report things anonymously or not anonymously. So like there's no shortage of employment labor work in
New York is like a whole different universe than what I'm used to. It's crazy. I think this is the first time we've ever talked about on the podcast that I'm in Tennessee. So yeah, I think it's the first time we've ever talked
by your amazing accent.
I don't have an accent right now. Catch me in a couple hours.
You mask it. I wish you wouldn't. I wish you would.
I can't help it. I don't know. It's like internalized. Let's do our Reddit post next because I think that one's really juicy.
I want to know what my accent sounds like to you.
I actually don't really notice one.
You told me a long time ago.
I can a little bit tell. Like you'll say wicked.
Oh, so like words instead of sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Wicked is more of like a New England thing. It's definitely a Boston, and I think I heard it once when I was a kid, and I was like, that's way better than mad, because mad was like the alternative. Like that's mad cool. And I was like, I don't like that one. I liked wicked cool.
That is completely valid.
It was very lens based. I'm an HR manager for a small organization with 120 employees and 6 owners. That's so many owners. Do you remember? And you've seen Office Space, right?
I don't think so.
Hey, you have an assignment.
Do I have homework?
Yes, you need to go watch Office Space.
Okay.
There's a line. I'm going to butcher it, but the main guy at some point, he's like, I have 6 bosses. 6. Oh. And like at any given time, like I have 6 different people breathing down my back and telling me what to do. 6 owners is a lot if they're all active and in your face. And I don't even know that yet. We didn't even get past the first line. Okay. Recently, we received wage garnishment notices for a handful of employees. That's strange. 3 of whom are part owners of the company. Okay. I had my HR associate process them like we would any other garnishment notice, and we notified the affected employees on their pay date. Normally, we would have sent out these notifications earlier, which was an oversight on my part. Okay. I've been overwhelmed lately and didn't have the bandwidth to pay as much attention to payroll as I normally would. Okay. I'm being judgy already.
It's not really their fault, I don't think. But they should have sent the notifications through.
I'm going to need to know the end story before I judge him.
Okay.
Her?
Them.
It felt himish to me. I don't know. Well, all hell broke loose. One of the owners sent me an angry message. Another called me and said we needed to fix this, that their accountant screwed something up and they shouldn't actually owe these amounts. The HR associate and I quickly corrected the payroll, refunded the money to the owners, and got the funds back from the state.
Which is just not how wage garnishment works.
The thing is, like, none of this is even. This can't be what actually happened.
Oh, it is. They buckled down on it in their responses to people in the comments.
Okay, wait. Now I'm being raked over the coals about this. I got a call from the CEO who was partially supportive, partially damning, but I'm still being made to feel like I massively screwed up, which I don't think I did. I'm terrified now that I'm going to lose my job over processing something that I'm obligated by law to process without getting the blessing of the owners. Yeah, probably. Okay, let's just assume for 3 seconds that this is an actual, like, state mandated wage garnishment. Then you do need to process it.
Yep.
So the fact that the owner, the fact that you now think you're going to get terminated as a payroll processor, apparently, because the owner was like, you shouldn't have done that. That clearly that owner is violating a lot of issues, but it's also a cultural issue. It's also a management issue. So like, I guess, did I do the wrong thing? Like, what question is, it's a hate.
I think they did the wrong thing when they decided to just undo the wage garnishment that was court mandated. That's when you did the wrong thing.
If it truly was, though, because like this doesn't.
They got wage garnishment notices.
Why did 3, unless this was some kind of like, okay, I'm making a hell of a lot of assumptions right now. If 3 owners, also he's calling them employees, which means that's probably an S corp and they're getting paid through the company. If 3 of them all at the same time got a wage garnishment, I have to assume it was the result of some type of change to the organization. I mean, in what world do 3 random people that are owners, even if they're not random people, even if they're brothers, 3 people all in one similar position don't all just get random wage garnishments at the same time, and they all happen to be owners? So I'm going to make an assumption and say that there was probably something that happened with the business, some type of reorganization, which resulted, or maybe it was a bankruptcy, like maybe whatever happened that resulted in 3 owners all being impacted at the same time, that may then, another assumption, resulted in a true garnishment. If it's coming as a garnishment, it does have to be processed. I don't believe there's any like notice required, first of all. Like it says,
I think that would probably depend on your state too, but
it would depend on probably the garnishment. And also they would know that there was one due.
They should have known.
The individual.
Okay, so actually I did a deep dive into Reddit after this because I was curious, and I found out that I've seen a few HR people posting that apparently they've been getting a lot of wage garnishment notices. Apparently a lot of people have bad debt that they're for some reason right now in society. So I can totally believe that happened. And since they got the money refunded back from the state, they were supposed to withhold it in the first place.
Our accountant screwed something up.
That's not the HR person's responsibility. You, as the owner who got the wage garnishment, need to go to court and handle your shit. Sorry.
And none of this is the person who processed this fault.
Yeah.
I'm just more like, do they know what they're talking about? Because this doesn't make much sense. And also, yeah, I know a lot of people have more debts and it's more likely that people are going to have garnishments now. But for 3 out of 6 owners all at the same time to get a garnishment,
I think it's a lot to your company. You know, like if 3 of your owners have wage garnishment notices, you should probably go. You should probably head on out.
The accountant doesn't screw something up and mess up a wage garnishment. That's what I mean. This person's being lied to. They got a piece of paper that they misinterpreted. They got the funds back from the
I think they're saying that the accountant,
it can take like years. If you make a payment to the state, it doesn't just come back. So none of this, the details in here don't seem to check out with reality, I guess. Regardless, I don't think they did anything wrong, but also it feels like they don't really know what the real situation is, and they're assuming that they do. And like, what's the end game with this question, I guess? Like, did you say there was more in the comments?
Oh yeah. So in the comments, because this is a subreddit full of HR professionals. The general discourse was, you did not make a mistake until you refunded it, because you can be held. Now, I don't know how accurate this is, but a lot of people were saying that there is a chance that they could be held personally liable for not withholding a court-ordered wage garnishment when they're supposed to, if they're the ones responsible for payroll. And so I just thought it was interesting, because if you have your employer telling you, don't withhold that wage, don't do that, and you don't withhold it, you could be in trouble with the state. if you do withhold it, you could be in trouble with your employer. Also, just the concept of wage garnishment is
Also,
so
the
fascinating.
individual is not going to be held liable. The company will.
There was a few people in the comments that said it is possible. I don't know how true that is. I guess it depends on where you're at.
It's possible if you're named in the suit or case or whatever, but it's not this. If this is a garnishment issue, the only time this is going to come into question is going to be via the state courts anyways. So like, they're not going to go after the person who processed payroll. They're going to go after the company.
That's what I would. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Go after the bigger fish, obviously.
Yeah, you can be named in a suit as a person who is involved, but well, who knows? There's not enough. We don't have enough detail about the way that this company is set up or operates to know what the exposure would be to this person. But and I agree, they didn't do it. If they received a piece of paper that said this needs to be withdrawn, and they did it, and then they were told to reverse it, and they reversed it, that is when an issue could come up. But I still don't see a huge liability for that person individually. And also, when they got the thing and said it was reversed, and the state paid it back, then it's all good anyway. The problem is really woo 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 woo. That's what we're doing the hands now.
Woo!
OXM.
I just think it's so interesting. Like, I don't know why this one piqued my interest, but
It goes. Sorry, I'm like just now. I'm on a rampage.
You're fine. Yeah.
It just goes back to my whole concept of like, I think this person's worried about the wrong thing. They're asking a question like, did I do something wrong? But their actual concern is, am I going to get fired because I did something wrong? So it to me, none of it really matters. One, because I know that they're probably not going to be held liable anyway. But like, clearly, if you're working for this company and you feel that the CEO is like speaking out of both sides of his mouth and saying like, oh, it's okay, but also you really screwed up. And if he or she or they feel as if they're going to be, there's going to be some action taken on their employment because of this, then that's not a company you're really going to want to work for anyway. So like, it's like they're asking two questions. Did I do anything wrong? And by the way, the culture sucks. So
I think it was a comment. I think it was a thread written out of fear. It screams fear to me, the whole thing.
Well, yeah, if you're going to lose
your job. I think if you're in a position as an HR person or as anyone in a company where your day is led by fear, let's just go find somewhere else, That's not a good vibe to have.
Anyway.
But as a note, since we probably have more business owners that would be watching our podcast, and probably a lot of people that are wearing an HR hat that aren't an HR professional, if someone was to receive a wage garnishment notice, Lindsay, how should they handle that?
You would plug it into payroll and garnish the wages.
Thank you. That's all I was asking for. Garnish wages, just garnish the wages. Just do.
Well, and also it has to be like a legitimate notice.
Yes.
I do remember, back in my payroll processing days, I do remember getting a handful of garnishments that, depending on like who it was issued by or where it came from, I do remember having to contact the contact information that's clearly on the thing, just for some clarification. But usually when it came from like some independent firm somewhere. But usually if it's like child support, it's the same form. It's from the state. It's like, you get it, you plug it in, it's done. And it is never a surprise to the employee, because by the time it reaches the employer, there's already been like court dates. There's already been some type of legislative process.
I think that's where the whole accountant thing came in. I think he was saying that his accountant was supposed to deal with this already, and so it shouldn't have reached the stage of actually garnishing his wages. I think that's what the guy was trying to say. But either way, it is not for your payroll person.
Like, give me the receipts.
But it's not for the payroll person to make the decision of if the wages should be garnished or not. You handle that in court. Yeah. So
And if it literally got paid to the state to the point where they had to refund it, then there's so much information.
There's so many things up in the air.
Yeah.
But I think that this is why you should probably have someone that is dedicated to payroll. Payroll.
Like somebody. Well, I don't know. Depending on how small your business is, a lot of times you have like your office manager is processing payroll or something, or you have a payroll administrator who like that's their full-time job, but then they also handle all of the HR stuff. In either case, they're never very good at handling the HR stuff unless they're working with us and we can tell them what to do and how to do it.
This could be a good plug for a little preview for iSolved, our little partnership that's coming up next month, which this will be released in October.
Yeah.
So do you want to put a little spiel here about iSolved?
Sure. Join us and get iSolved. Faith. You're putting me on blast.
It's fine. I'm gonna have Lex trim this down. We've been a hot mess the whole episode.
Yeah, but it's okay. Like it's supposed to.
Honestly, it's kind of a vibe. I love it.
Yeah. So if you are the office manager or you're the HR admin and you're also the person handling payroll and you don't know what to do and you want to kind of just be like set it and forget it and plug it in, there's two different things you're doing. You're working with the HR tech side of things, which is the payroll platform, but then you're also worried about the compliance stuff, which is when you need HR advice. So when you do work with us, when you do come on with Conscious HR, our team gives you the advice, the compliance stuff, and the strategy piece that I always think is more important than the compliance stuff, because the compliance stuff is just what it is. So you work with us to get like the advice and what makes sense to do based on these very particular situations when we have more information than we do in a Reddit thread. But then when you partner with us, we also work with iSolved as the tech side of things, which is a great platform, especially for small business. It's very like intuitive and easy to use. The platform looks, I don't know, to me, like I want it to look nice and feel fluid. It's got a great user experience. Listen, I've had a lot of experience with a lot of different payroll platforms. There's a reason that I've partnered with iSolved for the business, because there's so many of them that I've had to use internally that I didn't love, that made it really complicated. And even when you do have a good platform, you still are missing the other piece of like, I got this piece of paper. Is this something I really have to like garnish? Is this real? Is it not? What do I do? That's the kind of shit that, doesn't show up in a like Q&A. It's those very particular situations that you've never seen something before, or you can't Google it because it's something specific to your town or city or whatever it is. So that's where we come in. That's when we can look at it because we've done it before. And even when it's brand new, we have enough context to tell you kind of the risk associated with these things. And then we'll get you the good tech too.
That's wonderful.
Snap. Pull it all together.
Okay. So the next thing I have is, and you're going to love this one because it has been beat to death in the media.
Oh.
Once again, I'm not even going to read you the whole spiel on this because you know what it is. Okay. Once again, in the New York legislature, they are trying to pass a non-compete ban. They have tried this before and it failed, but it looks like it's likely to succeed this time. Who knows? But once again, they are trying to ban non-competes in New York. Do you have any opinions on this?
They're always so hard to hold up anyway.
Yeah.
Again, useless. I shouldn't say useless. This one could make it like forever. You can't do it. As much as I'm a culture champion, this is one area that I don't like. From a business perspective, if you're a sales organization, I think you should have some reasonable expectation. Bring on an employee and you give them all of your business contacts, that you should be able to draw some parameters around what they're going to be able to take with them. So, I mean, there's confidentiality clauses that you can still do, but how far does that really go? I think that there's extremely strict non-competes that are dumb that you shouldn't be able to do as a business. I also think that this should be, and maybe there is something in there, I don't know, but this is one of those regulations that I think should have some type of a threshold associated with it.
It
because
does.
There is. So like, what
Yeah.
is it? Is it revenue based? Is it employee count based? Like, what is the threshold?
It says it would ban most non-compete agreements for employees making under $500,000 a year. The only exception is when the agreement.
Okay. So that's a ridiculous number.
The only exception is when the agreement is tied to the sale of the business.
Okay.
So you can have a non-compete if it's tied to the sale of a business.
$500,000 is the limit for these employees.
Yeah, if you were making under $500,000 a year, you can't have a non-compete unless it's tied to the sale of the business. Huh?
That's an outrageous number. If you're making $500,000 a year in a sales capacity, that's a lot of money. Like, if you're making $500,000, that means you're responsible for some higher exponential rate of revenue for whatever business we're talking about. If that business is receiving that much revenue, so much so that they're paying $500,000 worth of commissions to one person a year, that business, like,
I see what you're saying.
probably, you know what I mean? Like, off of one salesperson, right? Like, they can probably afford to lose some of that business, but not all that business. Like, $500,000 seems like an awfully large amount of money to draw a threshold on.
I think that the move is
if you have an employee who's making under, let me just like throw out my real opinion instead of being like,
okay.
You have a commissionable employee who could be on a non-compete. I like, my threshold would be like $200,000. Now, probably 5 years ago, I would have said 100. And again, this is based on where I live in upstate New York. This is not New York City. This is not LA. This is not Miami. This is upstate New York. But that number has changed significantly just because of the economy and everything else, and like how expensive it is to live. But like, if you are making somewhere in the realm of $100,000 to $200,000 as a sales employee, if you left that company, you need to go find another job, right? So like, there should be some level of allowance to take what you know and go leave. And then also, it's always just kind of a trust factor to be like, hey, I'm not going to screw you over. I'm not going to take all your clients. I have enough of my own contacts, my own network, that they're going to choose to come with me. I don't need to chase after them. Like, that should be the mentality, but it's a, how do you legislate trust? It's like impossible, right? So I think when we're dealing with those numbers or that salary threshold, there's like a need to live within, like, I need to go get another job, whether you're terminated, whether you decide to quit, whether you whatever, you need that equivalent source of income, right? If we're talking about $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, at this point, there should be some level of responsibility on the employee to go like make that up elsewhere, or you're making enough money to try, like, to be responsible and manage your own finances. I'm not talking about the person making $60,000 a year who's a new sales rep who needs to go do, like, they need support, they need help, but there's got to be some threshold where it's like, hey, like, this is on you now. You're no longer working with us. We can't lose our entire business because you're no longer working here and you were our salesperson. This is a really long reaction to a question about non-competes, but
no, but I think it's interesting because salespeople have more ability to jump between industries. Their experience
should be the ability to jump with a reasonable expectation to maintain their income. That's, I think, my kind of boiled down opinion is like, if you're making under $200,000 a year, you should be able to go make a jump and maintain that level of income with another business. And also this is the other part, is the business has to be making enough revenue to be able to support the potential of all of that business leaving, because that person who was attached to those accounts is also leaving. So it's this balance of reasonable expectations for a business to be able to maintain operations and also allowing the employee to maintain their own lifestyle. And forget lifestyle, just like living, because that's the world we're in now, is we can't afford fucking bread anymore.
Yeah, I know.
So it's definitely like there's always the two sides to think about, but I think with non-competes, depending on the business, depending on the revenue, it puts businesses at an extremely difficult position.
Mm-hmm.
I also somebody who can just take everything and leave.
Yeah.
It's also the business's responsibility to build up a team and the business and the revenue to maintain when that does happen. But completely eliminating a non-compete with like no caveat, no reasonable threshold, I think $500,000 is a completely unreasonable threshold. I think at that point, like that's a lot of money for an employee to be receiving. I don't know. I'll probably get yelled at for this somewhere. I think it is. I think it's just a lot of money for an employee to be receiving. Again, if the employee is making that much money, it means that there's that much more revenue in this business.
I would assume that's probably for CEOs. Like it would be CEOs and like the really high level people that are making
came in. So that piece, like you said, except when they own a piece of the business or whatever,
or when it's involved. Hold on, let me read it exactly. I don't even know what it means. It says the only exception is when the agreement is tied to the sale of a business.
Oh, to the sale of a business. So that would be if there was ownership in this company and then this person was leaving, that could translate to a sale of a business. Even though it's not a sale, it's still like a shift in ownership.
I see.
So I would assume it would still qualify under that. So like, let's take that piece out of it.
Can I give you my hot take?
Huh?
Can I give you my hot take just as a flip side of the coin?
No, I'm the only one who's allowed to.
I think non-competes have been so abused and overused that they don't even mean anything anymore. Most of the time, they can't be enforced in the court because the court's going to say that the employee has the right to earn an income. And your best bet as a business is probably having iron. I'm going to say it like an Appalachian. I'm sorry. Ironclad confidentiality agreements. Because non-competes, it's likely it's not even going to get enforced, in my opinion.
Well, yeah. I just, it's a difficult thing.
But I completely see where you're coming from because you're a business owner, right? And if you had an a salesperson that was bringing in a lot of revenue but had access to all these contacts, it could be really damaging to you if they left.
Yeah, and if you have a revenue of under, again, what's the threshold for the revenue of the company?
$500,000.
Well, that's not revenue for the company. That's
for the employee.
Earnings. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think it might. It's hard.
Crazy.
I think there should be some type of threshold. Again, that seems unreasonable. I think there should be a lower threshold for employee pay, and then I also think there should be some type of like a company revenue threshold. Because again, if you're a company that's making under $1 million a year, like I'm a new business. Like if all of our clients just up and left tomorrow, there's no business left.
Yeah.
So it's.
Do you think confidentiality agreements could step in to close that gap? Like I've seen some really good ones that are like pretty binding. So
I mean, you can't. There's confidentiality agreements that you can't like take client information, but I think probably years ago, before the internet was the internet, that was easier. I think now, because information is just so accessible for free, you could literally not take any information from your company at all. So you could be within a confidentiality clause, right? Like, I haven't downloaded a thing. I haven't emailed. I haven't looked up. You could just have the knowledge of companies that exist. Do you know what I mean? And like, go get their information, go talk to them. If you're a savvy salesperson and you're actually building up a network, that's kind of just how it works. Man. So
that's a tough situation.
You could just never violate a really ironclad confidentiality clause and still take business.
I've never thought of it that way.
It was also like kind of on the other side of the coin of what I'm talking about, why it's so friggin' important for a company to want to retain their staff.
Preach it.
Retain your salesperson. Don't give them a reason to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like, have them grow the business with you, because the client is not in business with your business. They are in business with the person who's connected to your business. And if it's not you and you're the owner, then you better make sure that you're taking good care of your people who are taking care of the clients. Like that's the real kind of crux of the issue, is like, if you're terminating them because you don't have the revenue anyway, then you try something different. Like, your business model isn't working. If you are terminating them because they're terrible and horrible, like, there's probably a chance that they're not going to be able to take that business anyway.
Yeah.
If you would love to keep them and they're amazing and they're choosing to leave, well, why are they leaving? If it's a personal situation, then like, they're probably not going to take those clients anyway because they're dealing with something else. If it's a change in industry, if it's a change in career, those are all things kind of outside of your control. But if it's because they hate who they work for, they hate who they work with, they can't stand the clients that they're forced to work with, those are all things that are within your control. So like, those are the things from an employer perspective, like, keep your fucking people around, and then you don't have to worry about it so much.
That is true. I think that's very true. And I guess I'm going to adjust my opinion a little bit. I think that the only place that non-competes have a place is with salespeople. But other than that, and CEOs, like really high level people. But other than that, I shouldn't say low level because it sounds bad, but your normal everyday employees, there's really no reason for them to have.
That's another thing. I actually have people that are close to me that have non-competes that have no business being on non-competes. They might like help with the administration of an account, but they weren't responsible for getting it or maintaining it by any means. So in that case, yeah, like, if you're an administrative level employee, or like management of internal stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff is going to come out. Then there's no reason we need to be on a non-compete.
Yeah. I think that's part of the reason that non-competes have become so unenforceable. It's because people just abuse them and slap them on any employee they can. And
yeah, it just becomes a scare tactic.
Yeah.
People are going to do whatever they want to do. So it's important to have these policies in place to protect yourself as a business, but also people are going to people, and people have to people. We're human. Yeah. We're like, just be considerate of people's individual situations. Don't worry so much about the sales rep that's making $500,000 and what they're going to do when they leave. Worry about keeping them there, right? Okay. If they're making that much, then they need to be your top priority.
Oh, yeah. If you have a salesperson that is pulling in $500,000 a year.
Yeah. If you have an administrative employee or leader or manager who's making $100,000 a year and they're leaving, you also need to be concerned about them as humans. Yeah. Like, it is not an easy job market out there right now. It is very difficult. Even as a gifted, talented, skilled employee, it is extremely difficult to find a new job if you've been let go, if you've left, whatever the situation is. So you as an employer, even a past employer, should also be very concerned about them as a human and them being able to be like maintain their life outside of your workplace. Yes. So that's where like compassionate offboarding comes in, and giving them opportunities, even if it's not with your company. So I think there's this weird like middle ground of, you have to care about the human. You also have to worry about your business. And also there's a certain expectation that as an employee of your business, they need to maintain their own personal expectations. You can give them resources, not funding. You can give them salary. You can give them benefits. You can give them resources so that they are able to maintain those things. But at the end of the day, us individually have to maintain our own personal finances. And if we don't, it's kind of on us. So there's like human responsibility, there's business responsibility, and then there's business protection. It's like all three of these things come into play.
Agree.
If you wanted to know how I felt about it.
That was a really good conversation about non-competes. Kind of changed my opinion a little bit on non-competes.
You're like, I don't know. We've talked about it before. I'm like, I'm going to tell you.
I love it. I think it's a very interesting discussion. And I didn't look into it, but I might now and figure out why the non-compete ban hasn't passed in New York before. Because I'm actually really surprised you guys don't already have a ban. So
it's again, not to repeat a point, but it's one of those things. It's already so unenforceable. It just becomes like,
yeah, it's tough. Okay.
Now,
So I have a bonus topic, or we can just roll into the plug for the month. My brain. Why did I like stutter to get those words out?
roll in a plug. We're at 48.
We're at 48. All right.
Got a
Are you
class.
sure? Because the last topic I have is juicy. It's a court case, but it's fine. We can talk about it next time.
Keep it for next time.
Okay, cool. All right. So this month, we're technically in September. This will be posted in October, but we're still going to do our plug for VIP days. And I have a little spiel. The common thread in everything we covered today is that change is constant, and employers who plan ahead are the ones who stay protected. That's why we built VIP Days, a deep dive done with you sessions designed to set your people strategy on solid ground.
I love it.
Do you want to add some little Lindsisms in there?
I think so. When we started Conscious HR, I wanted to have access to HR strategy, to HR deliverables, to HR advice, wherever you're at on the spectrum of business. So whether you need like full-blown fractional HR team to come in and manage your entire like people organization, or you're the person who's like, I got it on lock, I just got questions once in a while, I wanted there to be some availability to jump in and out of that. And what we found as we started working with our clients was there was a lot of clients that were like, even though we kind of had all these different steps of availability, there was a lot that are like, hey, I just need this one thing done. And I kind of struggled with that a little bit because I always know that one thing does not equal a solution. So I came up with this creative way, these VIP days, where I know you're still getting like the strategic support you need so that this project is actually tied to your business goals. I never wanted to just come in and do a handbook. And I didn't want to come in and just give you job descriptions. If I knew that you were going to be getting something that wasn't quite tied to what eventually was going to benefit you anyway. So I had to come up with this creative solution that I was still giving you this piece of strategic advice and aligned advice paired with the actual deliverable, the thing you need. So VIP days are specifically for those people where you're like, I kind of just need this one thing. And more of it is to make sure that that one thing that you're getting makes sense for your business. So they're completely customized. They're completely based on where you're at in your business. We have kind of these like predefined things you can work on based on what we've experienced clients are going through. But that being said, each of these packages still are curated directly towards your needs and what you need. So it's a really great way to get HR support, even if it is just in this little short-term period, and then you still get something out of it that I feel better because I know it's going to be useful. And Lord knows Lindsay has to feel better. So
we've got to make sure Lindsay can sleep at night.
Yeah.
It's very important.
This is all for me. No.
Okay. Well, I think that was a really good conversation, and I hope that everyone that's watching now tunes in for next month when we also just drive that train straight off a cliff.
Tune in next time, folks, for Lindsay's next crash out.
It's because Lex isn't here. That's good. All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.